But I guess you don't.
Oh, well, like, I hear a couple every once in a while, but,
For whatever reason, have this song a little paired off, this one against that one. Like in Southern California, it's USC versus UCLA, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. Can you tell me where you were living in 1976?
76?
Yeah.
You mean in Madison?
Were you living in Madison, Wisconsin in 1976?
I don't remember that clearly, but that's over 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I had one thing in mind then, just finish my chief residency and get back into the mission field. And after I got into that mission field, sort of by accident, I'd been an engineering student before, and then I was got into Air Force headquarters as assistant sergeant major, acting sergeant major of General of the Air Force, Hap Arnold, Paris and Orly Field. And one of the other sergeants invited me to the Christmas services at Sacré-Cœur Cathedral in Paris. And I was born in Lutheran, the Evangelical Lutheran Church, and but they were Catholic, of course. And but the message of the bishop at the Christmas services got through to me, and I decided, well, maybe I should join medicine. So I started taking biological courses when I went back to UCLA after the war. That's how that started. And my friend there was Sergeant Frank Simonetti, who's a religious Catholic boy, and he was in the finance department at the Air Force headquarters at Orly Fields in Paris at Petois. And from an old Italian family, he was retired as a bank president in Grand Junction, Colorado. I see him several times.
Oh, I see. Did you ever move back? I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Well, that's anyway how I got, not sidetracked, but I got diverted anyway into interest in the mission field, because the sermon was, as have you done unto the least of mine, so have you done unto me. And that struck a note for me.
I see.
I was also a ghetto doctor in charge of one of the biggest clinics in Brooklyn, Gates Clinic at Gates and Bushwick. I had a Catholic Haitian doctor who was a surgeon also, and he was my associate there. We had a dozen doctors under us at Gates Clinic. It's one of the biggest, and over 100,000 patients in our file. Then when my mom got aged, got a scratch on her gold Cadillac, horrors. Didn't want to drive anymore. So I had to give away my practice, go to ghetto clinic and private clinic in Maspeth, Queens, which I took over from Dr. Jacobson when he passed on. So I actually had 3 offices in New York and staffed at 4 hospitals. I was a busy boy.
Yeah.
I used to go across the street by the overhead railroad track to the Golden Dragon after my evening round, and all the vampires and werewolves and stuff came out, we call them junkies.
Yeah.
When I was late for the meeting, the monthly meeting of the Public Health Committee, they would say, oh dear, maybe we've seen the last of Dr. J. But no, I'd show up. I was like bad penny, kept turning up to the meetings and so forth, even though we were yearly losing doctors to the Knife and Gun Club. It was a dangerous area.
Yeah, it sounds like a very dangerous area.
But there I was for years, until my mom needed me, and I just gave away my practice to people who take care of the patients. Didn't sell it, they just gave it away. Charts and everything, said, here you are, take good care. And actually, I was never a resident of New York. I stayed in Pennsylvania where I kept my horse.
You had a horse in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I got him off the track in New York. He was the grandson of Manowar, Triple Crown winner.
That's very impressive.
Black 16-hatch stallion. That was my real friend. He used to go down on weekends. Singles Country Club, which was in Pennsylvania, of course. stole the foxes out, we had to report some more.
Well, Mr. Jorgensen, I was wondering if the name Deborah Bennett meant anything to you.
No.
No? That's not ringing a bell?
The only girl I remember, it was not a girl, she was a very fine lady. Mara Kratz was a philosopher student, graduate student.
I see.
And in other words, the so-called hippie twins, a couple of graduate students, nursing, graduating in nursing, they sort of adopted me, I guess. I don't know why, but they'd come over. I guess it was that fatal night. They were over at my place, which is across the street, maybe a little bit to the west from the hospital entrance, and then to the east a little bit was this store, which was a restaurant, and a lot of people sort of congregated there. It was a place to have coffee and a hamburger.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Anyway, they were there. They fantasized themselves as being hippies, nursing, but they were very respectable persons from good families and all that, and getting their bachelor's degrees in nursing from the University of Wisconsin.
I see.
And they were over at my place and just socializing, eating coffee and stuff and talking. And I reminded them that it's about getting close to lockout time. So, and I drove them back to their place, went east on the main boulevard between my one-level bunch of apartments for the residents and the hospital entry. And to the east, several blocks, was their accommodations where they lived. And I just pulled on the wrong side of the street, no traffic, and then made a U-turn, came back and parked in our parking lot or whatever it was. So inside there were some other people watching television. I watched the late news. Some other people there. So I might say I was pretty well covered during the hours of interest.
I see.
With two nurses witnesses and other medical residents there. And so what about this vindictive surgeon professor who wanted to throw mud in my direction because I exposed him for being the lazy, arrogant bum that he was? That's the problem with doctors today. They're not with a conscience anymore. They forget the obligations that are imposed by Aesculapius, the godfather of medicine. In fact, I contributed money for my own investments. When I was an undergraduate at UCLA, I had a dive boat, and I used to dive for abalone. Just underwater construction and underwater demolition. And that was a hobby I had, as underwater medicine. Member of the Undersea Medical Society. That's one of the reasons why I was the chief cook and bottle washer for the Marine Research Expedition to Mozambique from Witwatersrand University in Johannesburg. We were there for 3 months on the equator in Mozambique, the area of Porto Aurelio, the richest fish breeding grounds in the Indian Ocean, the Ilocarimba Archipelago, northern Mozambique, which, by the way, was having a communist rebellion at the time.
Oh,
That's not news to you. You probably heard about that.
I think I might have heard something. Did you ever move back to Wisconsin? To Madison?
Never.
Never moved
I had
back?
no interest. The only interest I had there was getting my chief surgery residency to fulfill my board eligibility for the board of surgery. That's the only reason. And when it wasn't working out there because of all the political arrests they encountered, they got my chief residency in New York.
I understand that.
Medicine in Wisconsin, they thought the sun didn't set, but on Wisconsin, and they got baked to death.
I understand that about 35 years ago, a couple police came to question you, and you were ill at the time, and
That
they...
was That was not so. I was not ill. I contacted my friends in the Department of State of New York, and these police officers were promptly sent on their way back to West Michigan.
Okay.
They were sent without a choice for farewell party. It's like get gone, or else face prosecution.
Okay. Do you believe these capital city murders were connected?
What are the capital city murders? I don't know this local stuff. You know, it's stuff that I had no interest in Wisconsin except getting my chief surgeon residency. I couldn't overwhelm some of the political hassles that were going on there, and so I left.
Okay.
And good riddance. All your backbiting little hassles was going on, and doing your incompetent handling of a serial killer and God knows what else. You should have taken some officer from New Orleans or from New York or San Francisco or someplace where they handle a real good bunch of crime instead of this, whatever you call police in Miss Madison.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your time today, and I just have one last question for you. Did you murder Christine Rothschild?
I never even knew her. I have no reason to kill her or any other teenager. I have no interest. You'd have to be in a state of rage to make me call it 15 or 20. What did you tell me? Stab wounds?
It's
My
14
God.
stab wounds.
How many?
14.
Well, if 5 or 10 or 20 is still too many, you know. One good thrust to do the job. If you have the knowledge of anatomy to do it, you know. It doesn't take that much knowledge. Any good swordsman knows where to point a blade.
She was stabbed with a medical tool, and that just makes me curious if maybe you have some suspicions as to who it might have been?
Medical tool? You mean like a Humvee knife or something? Or
yeah, like a scalpel.
Amputation knife that they use? Well, my own attitude was to try and avoid an amputation by doing vascular grafts. Preserve perfusion of blood to a limb and save the limb. This is the fact what my chief could help you. Dr. Emil Holman was doing it. He took his whole resident staff to combat Central European campaign, which he was the Battle of the Bulls, you know, as they call it. And he was doing vascular grafts and operating with blood floor, using saphenous vein for bridging grafts for artillery wounds or whatever else it would interrupt the circulation, and saving legs that way.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
That was my chief of surgery at Bellevue, Dr. Holman. Great surgeon. A hell of a lot better surgeon than Carreri at Wisconsin.
All right.
I've had a number of chiefs of surgery in other places that have